to keep the drizzly rain into the morning and afternoon. Scotland and Northern Ireland, aside from a few pockets of mist, fog and frost, will see bright spells and showers across many areas during Tuesday morning and into the afternoon. The showers most prevalent across western and northern Scotland. Little changes then for the rest of the day. Outbreaks of rain through central areas, a lot of cloud in the south, brighter skies further north and temperatures closer to average for many of us compared with recent days, 5 to 8 Celsius. On Wednesday, the front across central parts finally clears southeastwards, so outbreaks of rain for a time in the southeast, brighter skies to the north and west, albeit with 1 or 2 showers. And then, from Thursday onwards, the weather is about to turn much, much more unsettled. Bye-bye.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. £50,000 in tax-free cash. How would you react if you won?
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Amazing, just the best feeling ever.
I'm in shock. That is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
An absolute monster. It took Chloe and Sean Ing 90 minutes to reel in this gigantic 8-foot-long monster fish from Chigborough Fisheries in Essex. And upon weighing this enormous marine beast, it was found to have been 7 pounds heavier than the existing British record, a 143-pound catfish caught also in Essex. But as I understand it, you actually went for a Chinese meal when fate struck. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. So I was fishing an area of Chigborough where you have to fish at a fair distance. So I cast my rods out and then we ordered a Chinese. And yeah, so I got the bite at about 10 to 8 at night. And then about 20 minutes into it, my phone started ringing, the Chinese guys at the gate with my delivery. So I had to send a couple of guys off to go and get it. And then, yeah, the fight, obviously, you can't just stop the fight to go and get your Chinese. So, yeah, the fight went on, for about an hour and a half in total. There's no net in the world that's big enough for this fish. So we had to send out, first of all, I sent out a mate, Alex. He went out there to go and basically use what we call a sling. So that's a safe apparatus that we use to take the fish out of the water. He then went to and he turned around and he was like, we're going to need another sling. So then we sent out another friend with a sling, and these slings are 4 foot long each. So then we had the catfish wrapped up in 2 slings, and it was still slightly longer than that. And then we got to a point where we was like, now we've got to try and get it out of the water to photo, to weigh it, because obviously we knew then that it was possibly going to be a UK record.
GB News.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight it started like this. And it kept getting better.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
the
office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
President Donald Trump has been sworn in as the 47th President of the United States.
I was saved by God to make America great again.
And should we just compare that to what we got here?
Frankly, things will get worse before they get better.
Trump has caused the typical left-wing meltdown.
How did we get here? How did we get here?
Through a massive Democratic vote. But anyway, in other news, very serious news, closer to home. Warped terrorist murderer Axel Rudikabana shockingly pleaded guilty today to murdering 3 little girls in Southport, but...
Time for change, Stormer. Come on, needed. How many more children? Is it mine next? Got your photos, off you go. Make a real change, Prime Minister.
Did Starmer and Cooper not know about his jihadi terror manual and his biological weapon right away? But, hey, Yvette Cooper has announced tonight that we're going to get a full public inquiry. So, hey, we'll find out, won't we? Also tonight.
It's just disgusting. You know, people want answers. We should be able to have them.
Tonight, we close the fundraiser for the Maggie Oliver Foundation, so those brave victims of grooming gangs can finally get the justice and support that they desperately need. So far, you wonderful people have raised an amazing £331,000. So thank you so much. You can go to gofundme.com/stop grooming gangs to know, can we get it to 350 grand by the end of the show? In other news.
Anything to say at all, Mr. Corbyn? Anything to say at all on your interview with the police? Goodbye.
Why were Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell looking a little bit shifty leaving a police station? On my panel tonight is Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, ex-chairman of the Tory party Sir Jake Berry, and former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. Oh, and of course, just when you thought that Hamas couldn't get any worse... And what on earth is going on here?
Say thank you for making it happen. Thank you.
Get ready, Britain, here we go. Let's make Britain great again. Next.
Good evening. It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Sophia Wensler with your headlines. The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has announced a public inquiry into the Southport stabbings that can get to the truth about what happened and what needs to change. It's after the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, admitted the state failed the Southport attack victims, and there are grave questions to answer after the government's counter-terror scheme cleared Axel Rudikabana 3 times. It comes as the 18-year-old accused of killing 3 young girls in the Southport stabbing spree has today admitted to the attack on the first day of his trial. Axel Rudikabana pleaded guilty to the murders of 9-year-old Alice da Silva Aguiar, 6-year-old BB King and 7-year-old Elsie Stancoom. The victims were killed during an attack at a dance class on the 29th of July. He will be sentenced on Thursday after pleading guilty to additional charges of possessing a knife, producing a biological toxin ricin, and owning a terrorist training manual. Donald Trump has said, "I was saved by God to make America great again," after being sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. Following the oath of office, Trump addressed the nation, saying the golden age of America begins now. Trump made promises on illegal entry, race and gender.
All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders.
Back in the UK, the King has written to Donald Trump to congratulate him on being sworn into office as US President for a second time. While Sir Keir Starmer has congratulated Trump and said the so-called special relationship will continue to flourish for years to come, with the Prime Minister set to visit the US within weeks. In other news now, the fragile ceasefire in Gaza is ending its second day, with 3 hostages reunited with their families, including British-Israeli Emily Damari. Her mother, Mandy, says her daughter is the happiest girl in the world after 15 months in captivity came to an end, and described their reunion as the hug she dreamed of. She says Emily is recovering better than expected, but needs time to heal. Meanwhile, 3 more people have been charged over Saturday's pro-Palestinian protest in central London that saw 77 arrests. Thousands gathered in the city to express support for Palestinians the day before a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas came into force. Former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn and MP John McDonnell have also been voluntarily interviewed by police after the demonstration. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome along. Shall we have a little look about how things got started? And then it just kept getting better.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And true to form, he came straight out the traps.
The golden age of America begins right now. America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth. Our nation's glorious destiny will no longer be denied. I was saved by God to make America great again.
Can we just take a moment, please, to compare that optimism, positivity, can-do spirit, glory to what we got over here after our last election?
But I have to be honest with you. Things are worse than we ever imagined. Things will get worse before they get better. I'll have to turn to the country and make big asks of you as well, to accept short-term pain for long-term good, the difficult trade-off for the genuine solution.
Right, let's do one more compare and contrast.
Will drill, baby, drill.
And over here, we've got Ed Miliband doing stuff like this.
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Is it any wonder entrepreneurs, millionaires, billionaires and can-do people are leaving Starmer's Britain and looking towards Trump's America? Oh, and by the way, just look at the face on Kamala Harris and co.
Vice President of the United States, the Honorable Kamala Devi Harris.
You can actually, if you listen closely, hear her teeth gritting there. But anyway, Trump immediately told us what he would do.
All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders. The Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China, we gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
Wow. He's going to sign executive orders tonight. In fact, I believe he already has, actually. He's already got to work. But perhaps the sweetest thing of all is the traditional left-wing meltdowns.
How did we get here? How did we get here?
So I'm going to whiz ourselves over now to get the thoughts of my wonderful panel this evening. We have got former Labour Minister Bill Rammell, journalist and broadcaster Carol Malone, and the former chairman of the Tory party, Sir Jake Berry. Carol, I'll start with you on this. Look, you know, you compare that kind of rabid optimism of Donald Trump there, talking about how the golden age of America is back, outlining that, you know, there's only going to be 2 genders. He's saying we're just going to deport illegal migrants. And apparently as well, at the border, by the way, they've already massed the border force up there. It turns out it was actually that easy to stop people coming over. You just have to try. He's doing all of that. And over here, we've got Keir Starmer talking about how rubbish everything is.
You know, I was watching Trump today, and I was, you know, I wanted to go to America. I thought, this is what you just said there. I thought, this is how easy it is. You just decide to do it, and you go and do it. And I thought he was really good today. I thought he was very calm and very measured. He wasn't triumphalist. He wasn't doing what he normally does. And he looked to me like he changed. And I kept wishing, I thought, I wish we had someone with that kind of courage, that kind of vision, that kind of big idea. Starmer doesn't have an idea in his head. You know, Trump has been preparing this for weeks. And also, you said today he was signing some executive orders. He will have done, by the end of the day, he'll have signed 100 executive orders compared to Biden, who signed 17 on his first day, which seemed to be a lot at the time. He's been getting ready for this for a very long time. And I just think, and, you know, when he was making that speech today, the hall, you know, was on its feet all the time. You know, some of the stuff you just mentioned there that you said he was going to do.
Drill,
you know,
baby, drill.
Drill, baby, drill. You know, and he's already, Trump expressed disgust at the fact Starmer has said, stop drilling in here. But all the stuff, you know, declaring a national emergency at the border, sending troops to stop illegals, going to deport millions and millions of people. There are only 2 genders in America, going to get rid of all the diversity and equality stuff. And I just, and companies are already dropping those schemes already. So I just think, to me, the Americans, even the ones who hated him on the last term, are on him now.
Well, look, just before I go to you, Bill, what you're looking at there, apart from Carol's wonderful face, of course, is the troops there. And Trump is apparently going to be greeting some of the troops in a few moments' time. This is a part of his victory parade, so we're going to be keeping you abreast of all of that. But, Bill, look, hey, come back to that, because, I mean, you know, it's quite damning stuff, isn't it? We've got the leader of the free world there, Donald Trump, riding in on a wave of optimism. Your man in Downing Street says the opposite, and he's miserable.
Well, you know, last week the FTSE 100 went through the roof. The IMF upgraded the UK growth forecast to the highest in Europe. So, you know, let's get things into context. I'm not going to eat my hat. Donald Trump is still someone with significant flaws, and I think he's got a range of policies that will be damaging, most particularly the introduction of tariffs. Nevertheless, he's got a mandate, and we've got to try and work with him. We need to get close to him. We need to prioritise our asks. We need to, you know, get close to some of the billionaires that he listens to, I think more so than his advisors, and we've got to try and influence what he's doing moving forward.
But look at that. You know, Jake, the party atmosphere that we've been seeing all day and covering all day here on GBNews. You know, parties in Washington, parties elsewhere. But I'll tell you where there wasn't a party, just before I go to you on this, Jake, because earlier on we came across a clip from San Francisco, OK, which is not exactly Trump heartland. And they decided that they were going to greet his inauguration by going to the top of a hill and letting out a primal scream. So shall we listen to it? Sad, really sad.
Well, it's screaming into the wind, isn't it? And we all know how effective that is. It's probably sounding like quite a windy day. Look, what I loved about today, it was reminiscent of Ronnie Reagan in the 1980s. In fact, the last time, 1985, I believe it was, when they held the swearing-in indoors. It was the optimism. It was the belief in America. It is that can-do attitude that makes America one of the most extraordinary countries in the world. And that, I think, President Trump should be applauded for. Compare that to the UK, as you quite rightly say. Well, first of all, we have a bit of a different style here, don't we? We're not quite as brash, we're not quite as forward. But there is a halfway house, isn't there? I want people to be in power, to be our Prime Minister, who are optimistic and positive about the future of Britain. And we don't get that. What have we got from this government? We've had the lunacy of David Lammy calling President-elect Trump, as he was, now President Trump, as being supported by the Ku Klux Klan. We have Angela Rayner describing him as a buffoon. We have Sir Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, last time he came to London, agreeing for him to be followed round with a humiliating blimp. You know, what is our government doing for Britain? Why are we trying to humiliate the democratically elected president of our greatest ally? This is bad for Britain.
Do you know what?
I just want to come in here. One, to take you on the IMF thing. There's not a single prediction that the IMF has ever made that's real or come true.
So your economic view is better, Carol?
They're absolutely hopeless. They've been trashed, and over the weekend they were trashed in the papers.
You know better.
I didn't say me. I'm talking about the analyst views built in the papers all over the weekend. Who says do not trust the IMF? Not me. Anyway, the other thing is when you just look at Trump already, he's only been made president today, but in the past week he has changed the world from Kiev to Jerusalem to Ottawa to China. He has helped decisions be made. You know, he's made what he's called Netanyahu. He has signed a deal, a peace deal, the same peace deal that he rejected 8 months ago. He said to Hamas, if you don't release the hostages, all hell will break loose. Guess what's happened? The hostages are being released. So he is making a difference already.
Correct.
Do you know what? I'm prepared to, concede that I think Trump's intervention on Israel and Gaza has been a good one. Biden did a lot of the legwork, but clearly Trump has put pressure on.
He didn't do any of the legwork.
Why aren't Labour on the side of this? Why aren't Labour, who
there?
represent our government and represent our country, sorry, why aren't they on board with this? It looks like they're on the wrong side of history, Bill.
History. Look, Trump, his policies are going to collide with reality. Let's take migration. Joe Biden returned more migrants, undocumented migrants, every year he was in office than the best year of the previous...
And he let more in, exactly.
The best year of the previous Trump administration. But you know what as well? I want to take...
Come on, you're going to take me on, come on.
No, you made the reference and the comparison with Ronald Reagan, and I was no fan of Ronald Reagan, but he had an optimistic view about uniting the country. Trump, very clearly, is about dividing the country.
He's not. He said today he wanted to be a unifier and a peacekeeper.
The golden era for America has started. That is a unifying message. Whatever you say, that is a unifying message.
I'll come back to you, Jay. Sorry, I hope you don't mind. But just to say what we're looking at now is that Trump and Melania, President Trump and First Lady Melania, have arrived to greet the troops there in Washington, D.C. It's a remarkable thing seeing him back in office, isn't it? Back in power there. Look, if Trump decides to make some kind of impromptu speech to the troops there, we will obviously cut away from what we're doing here now and take you to that live. But, Jay, look, a lot of people say, well, the Americans don't do pomp and ceremony as well as we do. I'm looking at this and I've looked at it all today.
What a lovely hat she's wearing. I mean, come on. That is straight out of the royal family's playbook, that hat. Very demure, covering her eyes. The First Lady looks absolutely fantastic. The Americans have done themselves proud today. But actually, when they really did themselves proud is when they came out in numbers decisively. In fact, one of the most decisive American elections we've seen for decades, voted in President Trump and rejected an ultra-woke, bizarre ideology that they never vote for, that was being pushed by Biden and his administration. And you can directly read that over to the UK, where we have a Labour government with a huge majority, but got a very small share of the vote, trying to do exactly the same.
Do you know what? The real contrast today was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris engaging in a respectful democratic transfer. Hold on, Carol. Transference of power. Compare and contrast.
She had a
Hold on,
face
Carol.
like a
You've had to say,
bomb.
Carol. Compare and contrast 4 years ago with Donald Trump, who didn't accept the result of the election, didn't even turn up to the presidential inauguration, and continued. He actually tried to mount a coup and overturn the election.
She was not the biggest
Compare and
respectful.
contrast.
She was not respectful. She had
And Trump was 4 years ago, was he?
She had a face like a smug backside today. She didn't clap for anything apart from at the very end, when everyone else did. Lots of other Democrats.
All I would say, Carol...
But I also want to, let me just make the point. I think had Trump remained in office, we would have had a very good workable trade deal with the US. We didn't have it because Biden put a stop.
Do you know what? All I can say...
We're never going to get a trade deal because Congress will always vote against.
Right, OK. All I'd say about Joe Biden's final speech, a la Donald Trump, I have no idea what he was saying when he was mumbling along, but I don't think he did either.
No, but let's just deal with some of the substance of what Trump has said today. He stood up there, the world was watching. The absolute world was watching today, and he's gone, there's only 2 genders in America. We're taking the Panama Canal back. That's ours. We're going to deport illegal migrants. That's
so what?
it.
He's going to invade Panama?
Well, hang on a minute. But we're going to reinstate, low taxes, go for growth, and actually mean it. America is going to go great guns. Jake, let's deal with the woke thing first. Trump, the leader of the Western world, stood up there and basically said, woke is over, woke is dead. Meanwhile, here, Keir Starmer really struggled to tell you what a woman is.
They say in America, go woke, go broke. The worm has turned in America. And I'll tell you, Patrick, I think the same thing's coming to the UK. GBNews viewers have been ahead of the pack for some years now. I think the same thing's coming to the UK. Watch this space.
There's nothing he said today that people here would not endorse.
Absolutely
Everything he said
correct.
about wokeism and about diversity and about illegal immigration, people here would have been jumping up and down and shouting, because that's what we want here as well.
I'll tell you what his agenda is. It's about tax cuts for the very wealthy and a ballooning deficit.
Well, let's see.
Now, the US can manage a deficit better than any other nation, but it's not limitless. And his policies on tariffs will damage us here, damage us in Europe, and damage the US economy as well. It's crazy economics.
Well, I tell you what,
and he's got to be pulled back.
If that is true, why on earth has the UK government gone out of its way before he was elected? The Republicans have accused the Labour Party of electoral interference.
Exactly.
They went over there on an industrial scale. Over 100 people reported in the press. Reported in the US. Well, let me finish my point. If you are concerned about tariffs, it shows the insanity of the Labour Party and our own government deciding to trash President Trump. OK, one thing before he'd been elected, but after he'd been elected, what on earth are they playing at? Why is our government tackling and attacking our closest ally? It's bad for Britain's security. It's bad for Britain's economy. Don't be surprised that he's not in love with Starmer.
In advance of the election, said far worse things about Trump than any Labour figure has done.
He didn't do it after he won the election, though, did he?
Come back to it, Jake. Let's go to the substance. Are you in favour of tariffs?
I'm not, and that's why I want a government that has a close relationship with the President of the United States, rather than attacking him, campaigning against him, insulting him. We've got a Chancellor of the Exchequer who's prepared to go to China on bended knee to beg to bring back £100 million a year from one of the world's most brutal dictators, who literally keeps Muslims and Uyghurs in concentration camps. And they have the cheek to criticise a democratically elected President of the United States. It's a disgrace.
Ever since the general election, this government has been seeking to build a relationship with an incoming Trump administration. That's why David Lammy and Keir Starmer met him for dinner in September.
It's why
the diplomatic corps have been building bridges, and why we will have a good relationship.
He was going to be in government, yet he still called them names, and so did all the rest of them. And that's because they're experienced and because they're stupid, and they don't know how. And if the special relationship is damaged, you've got nobody to blame but your government.
Carol, look at the polling evidence. The vast majority of people in Britain agree with that critique of Trump.
Well, let's see what the polls say next week.
The vast majority of people in Britain don't want Starmer to be Prime Minister, or your lot in.
I take what you're saying, Bill, don't get me wrong, but I fail to believe that any citizen of any country would not appreciate their newly elected leader standing up and shamelessly putting their own citizens first, which is what Trump appears to be doing. Right, we are obviously going to be bringing you a heck of a lot more from what we've been seeing there. If Trump talks, we will bring it to you. But coming up, I'm going to reveal how much you helped raise for the Maggie Oliver Foundation and, crucially, grooming gang victims. And you can go to GoFundMe.com/Stop Grooming Gang. Thank you very much, everybody. We are going to close that fundraiser later tonight. But first, it's time now for our biggest and greatest Great British giveaway this year. It's your chance to win 50 grand. Here's how all that money can be yours.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. £50,000 in tax-free cash. How would you react if you won?
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Amazing. Just the best feeling ever.
I'm in shock. That is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
for another chance to win £50,000 cash. Text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, OK, so welcome back. Now we're going to be playing you footage of what's going on in America throughout the course of this show as President Donald Trump leaves that victory parade. But first, there's an issue that really is linked to Donald Trump and, crucially, Elon Musk that has got people worried over here, specifically British Muslims. They are apparently very, very concerned. It's time now for our head-to-head. So, the outgoing leader of the Muslim Council of Britain had claimed that British Muslims are now terrified by Trump's presidency and the influence of his close ally, Elon Musk. Zahra Mohammed says that rising Islamophobia and the, quote, normalisation of figures on the far right are areas of concern in the UK that could be emboldened by the newly elected US president. Elon Musk will have a key role within the Trump administration. Has been a very vocal person about the UK policies recently, calling for a national grooming gang inquiry. Ms Mohammed claims that posts on Musk's social media app X have created a hostile atmosphere for British Muslims, suggesting that their fears have been heightened by the far-right politicising of child grooming and the, quotes, smearing of Pakistani communities. Tonight I am asking, are British Muslims right to be worried about a rise of Islamophobia under Trump's administration? Going head-to-head on this now, the former chairman of the Conservative Muslim Forum, Mohammed Amin, and Iranian human rights campaigner Lily Mu. Both of you, thank you very, very much. Lily, I'll start with you, if that's OK. When you hear those comments there about Trump and about Musk, who we've just seen give a very animated speech, it must be said earlier on, and we'll bring that to you shortly. Do you think that the Muslim Council of Britain are right that it's going to increase Islamophobia here in Britain, Lily?
Honestly, I think these comments are rather inflammatory. The headline on the article that I read starts with the fear of Muslims are afraid in this country. Who is afraid here? Because the majority of the Muslim community are a thriving community. They're very positive. They're contributors of this country. And they have a space. They have a very safe space in the UK to do as they wish. I mean, we have 85 Sharia courts in the UK. I don't think there is a huge pressure on the Muslim community and the Islamist groups here in the UK to feel in any sort of fear that their rights for speech or existence is in any way affected. I mean, if Elon Musk were to say the Shahada tomorrow and come out as a devout Muslim, would they want to not use X? I mean, is it only if a platform is used in order to magnify and amplify one voice that's useful and every other voice should be either shut down or has to be filtered in so many ways so that a certain other group should not feel in one way or another offended? I mean, what happens to free speech?
All right. Look, I don't mind, Mohammed, if hopefully you don't mind, I should say, if maybe we could just play some clips of what we've been seeing, live shots of this victory parade anyway, because I do want to ask you, Mohammed, you know, when you see the kind of things that we're seeing at the moment with Trump's victory parade, you know, should that really strike fear into the heart of British Muslims? Does that not seem like a bit of an overreach from the Muslim Council of Britain?
So are you playing the clips or do you want me to speak?
Well, we're just going to play rolling clips of what we've been seeing so far. So it's just been Trump's inauguration and the march that was taking place at the moment. When you see that, the inauguration today, you know, should that strike fear into the hearts of British Muslims, do you think, really?
Well, today's inauguration is the inauguration of an American president, which happens every 4 years. And this time, in his election campaign and in his remarks since he got re-elected as president, as far as I'm aware, Mr. Trump hasn't made anti-Muslim comments the way that he did back in 2016 when he was calling for a ban on Muslims entering America. So I don't think it's right to accuse Trump himself of fomenting anti-Muslim attitudes at the moment. Indeed, many American Muslims actually voted for him because they were so concerned about what was happening in Gaza and disappointed with the Biden administration. However, I do share the concerns of the Muslim Council of Britain about the Twitter activity of Elon Musk, who I think has been fomenting anti-Muslim hatred in the UK.
OK, go on. So give examples of, in your view, Mohammed, how he's been fomenting Muslim hatred.
Because of what he's been saying about the grooming gangs in places like Rotherham in the past, implying that basically the British government has been ignoring it, whereas we've had a significant number of inquiries. There was a detailed report from Alexis Jay, which the previous Conservative government simply failed to implement. But the way that Musk has been tweeting about it, in my view, has the effect of increasing anti-Muslim hatred. And we saw in the summer serious riots in the UK with mosques being attacked around the country. These were racist riots which were whipped up by lies on social media.
Well, it's interesting you should point that out, actually, because that actually ties in two of the key topics from today, which is that Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper have been very quick to call for a public inquiry into the case of Axel Rudikabana and how the state potentially let down the victims there. However, did not want and does not want to have a further inquiry specifically into Pakistani rape gangs. So there's a contrast there in the way in which Keir Starmer is willing to go after that. That's a topic that we're going to come on to later. But Lily, do you buy that then from Mohammed, that Elon Musk comments on Twitter pointing out things that might be inconvenient truths, but are truths nonetheless, that 1 in 73 members of the British Pakistani community in Rotherham were actually prosecuted as part of the grooming gang scandal? I mean, is that, in your view, likely to lead to the kind of things that Mohammed was talking about there, you know, the attacks of mosques or just, frankly, just Muslim people randomly walking the street?
I believe that the fact that we have to wait for Elon Musk to point out the atrocities that have taken place in this country against the British girls at the hands of either British Muslim Pakistani men or dual national Muslim Pakistani men. It's so heartbreaking that we, instead of putting focus on the actual survivors and victims, we are trying to find so many different ways to pin the actual perpetrators in some light, that they're part of a community, and therefore, because they're part of a community, they should be seen as innocent or not be taken in such scrutiny. These very perpetrators are a danger to the Muslim community too. Let's not forget that. Muslim girls in their own families are afraid. They don't know which one of the members in their community have been taking part in this grooming gang and rape gangs, as they actually are, truly are. They are rape gangs. Children do not consent to any sort of sexual activity. They are children. They do not know any better. If they don't know how to defend themselves, that does not mean they are willing to be there.
All right, I'm just going to look. Hey, I'm just going to play this clip. Thank you for that. I'm just going to play this clip to you, Mohammed. Hopefully, we can take this, which is Elon Musk earlier today. Right, so this is it. Elon Musk earlier today was, giving very animated speech. He was obviously ecstatic at the position that we found ourselves in, and then boom, there we go. And I think he doubles down here in a second. Yeah, he did. Look, now a lot of people are pointing out, Mohammed, and look, I hope rightly so, that maybe he's a bit overexcited and he was just kind of. Expressing it was an unfortunate choice of gesture that maybe he hadn't realised, and he certainly was not actually intending as a Nazi salute. However, a lot of people, Mohammed, have jumped on that and said that there you go, he sees the opportunity to do a Nazi salute. Well, what's your view on that? In light of the conversation we're having, which is that potentially British Muslims should be fearful of a Musk-Trump regime, what do you think?
Well, first of all, let's remember that Elon Musk has endorsed the extreme far-right party in Germany, Alternative for Deutschland, which very many Germans consider to be a neo-Nazi party, a party that has been investigated by the German Secret Service, which is concerned about a possible resurgence of Nazism. So I think for Elon Musk to perform that kind of salute, being aware of that background is extremely unfortunate.
OK. Well, look, I mean, look, whether or not you think he meant it, it is obviously unfortunate. I mean, it's certainly a poor choice of gesture. That big question is, of course, was it deliberate? Did he mean anything by it? We will have to wait and see. Can I just say a massive thank you to both of you? Really, really appreciate it. It's Lily Moo there, who's an Iranian human rights campaigner and the former chairman of the Conservative Muslim Forum, Mohammed Amin. Thank you very, very much. Well, coming up...
Thank you. Can I go now?
Well, OK, there we go. He's been in office for less than a few hours, but already Donald Trump has signed executive orders that will target woke gender ideology, illegal migration and electric vehicles. I will go live to Washington, D.C. The former special assistant to President Reagan, Mary Jo Jacoby, will take us behind the scenes of the Trump administration. But first, I'm going to reveal how much you wonderful people have helped raise for the victims of grooming gangs. My initial target was £100,000. Thanks to your generosity, we have smashed that. I'll be joined live by the one and only Maggie Oliver, who'll tell me all about the brilliant work that her foundation does. And just a reminder, that link is on the bottom of your screens if you're watching us on TV or YouTube. It's gofundme.com/stop grooming gangs. It will be a wonderful thing if we could get to 350 grand by the end of this show. That's next.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We keep mostly cloudy weather during the next 24 hours, so some patchy rain, but where clear spells do occur overnight, there'll be dense fog patches by morning. A cold front has moved south, but it's now slowing down, in fact stalling across central parts of the UK. That leaves behind an area of low cloud through northern England, North Midlands and North Wales. Outbreaks of drizzly rain here. Either side of that, some clear spells overnight, but where we do get prolonged clear spells, those dense fog patches will form. And it will be chilly, temperatures close to freezing, so frost and a few patches of ice here and there, particularly for Scotland and Northern Ireland, where we've got some showers moving through as well as those clear spells on and off. But it's across southern parts of the UK where we're likely to see some dense mist and fog patches first thing. Otherwise, a lot of low cloud and some cloud breaks, so some sunny spells coming through, although for North Wales and Northern England we keep the low cloud, we keep the drizzly rain into the morning and afternoon. Scotland and Northern Ireland, aside from a few pockets of mist, fog and frost, we'll see bright spells and showers across many areas during Tuesday morning and into the afternoon. The showers most prevalent across western and northern Scotland. Little changes then for the rest of the day. Outbreaks of rain through central areas, a lot of cloud in the south, brighter skies further north and temperatures closer to average for many of us compared with recent days, 5 to 8 Celsius. On Wednesday, the front across central parts finally clears southeastwards, so outbreaks of rain for a time in the southeast, brighter skies to the north and west, albeit with 1 or 2 showers. And then, from Thursday onwards, the weather is about to turn much, much more unsettled. Bye-bye.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight. Now, I just wanted to, before we go to our next guest, hopefully just fill you in on what's going on live in Washington, D.C. So Donald Trump, President Trump, has joined his supporters for his inauguration parade. There you go. In fact, we can hear it as well, can't we? Fantastic. So there we are. I mean, this has really been a spectacle from start to finish. Trump is, as I understand it, in his car on the way to this ceremony in Washington, D.C. When he gets out of the car, when he starts talking, we'll take that for you live, but this is what's going on at the moment. A little bit of pomp and ceremony. But before we go back to that, a week ago, I launched my fundraiser for the Maggie Oliver Foundation. Now, my initial goal was 100 grand, but thanks to your generosity and support, we've totally smashed that goal and raised more than £336,000 for the brave survivors and victims of grooming gangs and child sexual abuse. Now, that link is gofundme.com/stop grooming gangs. That's gofundme.com/stop grooming gangs. Shortly as well, we'll bring up a QR code. You can hover your phone over it, and it will take you to that donation page. Every penny will go towards the wonderful work that the Maggie Oliver Foundation does. And to tell us a little bit more about that work, I'm delighted to be joined by Maggie Oliver herself. Maggie, well, look, hey, thank you for joining us tonight. 336 grand is no mean feat, is it? And, you know, that's all credit to you and the work you do, but also the wonderful GBNews viewers and listeners. But, Maggie, could you maybe tell us a little bit about, you know, what that money's going to go towards as well? Is that all right?
You know what, Patrick, it's going to be life-changing, and I'm so grateful to all of your, viewers, because I think they share the same passion to help victims and survivors as I did when I started the charity. You know, I use my own money. We have no money from the state or the organisations that can silence us, but victims have been silenced, they've not been heard, they've been blamed, they've been criminalised. And, you know, our charity, we are a tiny charity. 3 full-time staff, 2 part-time. We are moving mountains for every single victim or survivor that comes to us. But this money is absolutely life-changing for us. It's blown me away. I never, in my wildest dreams, ever anticipated this. And I'm just so grateful to you, Patrick, to GBNews. We fight alongside victims who have nowhere else to go. We advocate for them when they're being criminalised or their cases aren't being taken forward by the police. And on the other side, we offer ongoing emotional support through we've got 30 volunteer ambassadors now. 70% are survivors. And you heard Dolly last week. It's the survivor from being broken to being heard, to being treated with compassion and respect, so that they realise that they have not done anything wrong. It's not their guilt. They have been failed, and we help them pick up the pieces of their life. We pay for therapy. We have a trauma-informed psychotherapist that we pay for survivors to go through that service. We are offering life-changing work, and my team are phenomenal. But now we can add to that team, we can grow our reach, we can use our voice, and we can ensure that,
It's vital, Maggie, isn't it? Sorry to cut you off, but I mean, it's vital, just again to emphasise, if anyone's not watching us, you can go to gofundme.com/stop grooming gangs. We're raising thousands of pounds more now as you're talking to me, Maggie. But this is a problem that's still going on, isn't it? And that is why these donations really matter, because it can help people who have not just been victims historically or survivors historically, but people now.
Absolutely, Patrick. We've helped almost 5,000 victims and survivors since 2019. And if you look at the feedback, we have had people who said that they were suicidal and they come to us, but we are, I think, we're the only organisation that offers truly independent support without an agenda. We have nothing to gain except to ensure that every single survivor is supported and can pick up the pieces of their broken lives. But it is going on now, and they need us.
Maggie, I'm just getting something absolutely extraordinary in my ear, and I can't quite believe I'm saying this. On the GoFundMe page, right, we have raised £337,995. Brilliant. But someone has just made an anonymous donation directly to your website of £75,000. So I can tell that to you. It's not showing up it won't show up on the GoFundMe page. Someone I've just been told, has just donated £75,000 directly to your foundation. That you must be able to do that on your website, I imagine. So that's how they've done it. So thank you for everything, whoever you may be. Thank you very much. And just to say, that would take our total. My maths is terrible, everybody, so apologies. Thank you. £411,000, £412,000 is that total. Is that total now? So well done, everybody at home, wherever you're listening. But Maggie, that is down to you and down to everything because of the work you do and have done for years. And everyone knows you. Everyone knows what you're about. Everyone knows that you're just such a trustworthy, lovely person who's put their neck on the line and the head above the parapet for this. So that brings, I believe, it to 412 grand, Maggie. So look. Thank you for everything. And we know, everyone knows you're going to do such great work with that, and it's going to save lives, isn't it?
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, GB News viewers, and everything you've done for us. We will change the world. I promise you. I'm not going anywhere. We are staying with this forever.
Well done, Maggie. All right. God bless. God bless. And hey, thank you so much for always popping up when I said, oh, could you come on tonight and can you sort this out for us? Thank you. All right. God bless. Look after yourself. Bye, Maggie. Bye-bye. Thank you. It's Maggie Oliver there, the Maggie Oliver Foundation. GoFundMe.com/Stop Grooming, guys. Wow, wow, wow. A 75 grand anonymous donation has gone straight to Maggie whilst we were live on air. What? Just blown away by that. Gosh, right, well, look, hey, I've got some other news that I need to cover tonight and want to cover tonight, of course, and so at 10 p.m. we're going to be doing this.
Time for change, Stormer. Come on, needed. How many more children? Is it mine next? Got your photos, off you go. Make a real change, by
Well, that evil murderer, Axel Rudy-Cabana, pleaded guilty today to murdering 3 little girls as well as some other offences in Southport. But what did Keir Starmer know about this crime? When did he know it? Will we ever get the truth? We're going to tackle that at 10. But first...
We'll drill, baby, drill.
He's been in office for less than a few hours, but already Donald Trump has signed executive orders that target woke, gender ideology, illegal immigration and electric vehicles. I'm going to go live to Washington, D.C. very, very shortly, so don't miss it.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you were hoping to escape to the Mediterranean this week for some sunshine, I'm afraid you might be disappointed. It is quite unsettled at the moment. A storm system just off the coast of Iberia is bringing outbreaks of heavy rain for parts of Madeira, the Canary Islands into Portugal and Spain. We've also got the remnants of Storm Gabrielle still lingering around parts of Italy, bringing some heavy showers here, also through the Adriatic as well. These heavy showers could continue over the next few days, but it might turn a touch more settled further west later on.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Tell us about the backlash situation, first of all.
Yeah, so the Duke and Duchess of Sussex visited a local food distribution centre, handing out food parcels to those who had been displaced or emergency service workers as well. And they happened to be captured by a local news crew. I think it was a Fox News crew. It's part of World Central Kitchen. That's a charity that they have supported for a number of years now, who've been doing this food distribution things. Whether or not it was a photo op, it's really unclear. I don't think we're ever going to get the answer to that. They didn't look like they were made up to look glam for the television. It looked genuine, but of course we know Meghan is an actress as well. So I'll let you make up your own mind on that one. But then we found out very late last night that the Duchess has asked Netflix to postpone her new lifestyle programme, and the Duchess has released a statement actually, and she says, "I'm thankful to my partners at Netflix for supporting me and delaying the launch as we focus on the needs of those impacted by the wildfires in my home state of California." She thinks it would be inappropriate to launch a glossy programme where she's in a $5 million mansion cooking food. It's an 8-part series, and hopefully by that time these fires will be well and truly extinguished.
Well, they're also getting criticism in the US as well from Jason Bateman's sister, that's the actor, talking about that photo opportunity that people are calling it, saying that Meghan Markle and Harry are no better than ambulance chasers and they're disaster tourists.
It is difficult, isn't it, for Meghan and Harry trying to find their place in the world. Are they media, entertainment personalities, celebrities, and doing Netflix and all the rest of it, or are they going to be humanitarian workers like perhaps being members of the royal family would be? And I think at the moment they're kind of straddling those two different worlds, aren't they?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Look, coming up, will we ever really know the truth about those Southport murders? But first, President Donald Trump took office just a few hours ago, and already he signed more than 100 executive orders. These include dismantling diversity initiatives, only recognising 2 genders in the federal government, declaring a national emergency on the Mexico border, and in his words, starting a new quest to drill, baby, drill. Well, I'm joined now by the former Special Assistant to President Reagan, Mary Jo Jacoby. Mary Jo, thank you very much. Hey, great to have you on the show. I mean,
great
look,
to be here, Patrick.
He's got off to a flyer, hasn't he? Doesn't it just show you what can be done? I believe that Border Force is already lining up on that border with Mexico, saying turn around and go home.
As I understand it, the passage in El Paso, Texas is closed, and the CBP1 app has been shut down.
Just tell us about what that is, because that's a fascinating thing. So illegal immigrants could basically download an app on their phone under Joe Biden and do what with it?
They could, in essence, register to enter the United States still illegally. It wasn't a legal passage, but it granted them passage. And that is now shut down.
Trump has just shut that down. Just
it's
literally
shut down. It is no longer available. Like TikTok was not available for about 12 minutes yesterday. CBP1 is gone.
That just shows what you can do, doesn't it, if you actually care and actually want to. The other thing is, we are not going to have men in women's changing rooms anymore, I don't think, are we, Mary Jo? We
have 2 genders in America, men and women. There will be men's rooms and there will be ladies' rooms, and so far as loos, and there will not be joint, and there will not be joint dressing rooms for sports in schools.
So that's the other thing. Hey, that's another great point, because now this thing about, college sport or presumably now Olympic sport or whatever, that fantasy ship of men can be women has gone, hasn't it? We're not going to be seeing this in sports in America again, are we?
I think you're not going to see it for at least the next 4 years and hopefully beyond.
And in terms of going gangbusters for the US economy, you are sitting on a huge amount of natural resources. Drill, baby, drill is the message there. I tell you what, Joe Biden didn't look too happy about that.
No, the environmentalist's hair caught fire this afternoon and contributed a great deal to global warming, if you believe in global warming. So he's going to drill, he's going to export oil and gas. Our oil and gas industry, I spent a lot of time in oil and gas with Shell and BP, and I'm delighted to know that we will be able to have a full energy mix. We will not be relying on unreliable renewables. I'm not opposed to renewables, but they can't do it alone, particularly given the cold weather that I think 150 million Americans are currently experiencing.
Just quickly, Mary, look, we're looking at live shots here from the Capital One Arena in Washington, where shortly President Donald Trump will arrive there, and we'll take that live as well. But what do you think will be going through his head right now?
I think he is absolutely delighted, and I think he is also humbled by the fact that he was in the wilderness for 4 years. He was chastised for 8 years, ever since he came down that golden escalator, and here he is back. And Joe Biden said in one of his pardon statements, America is the country that believes in second chances. Well, this is Donald Trump's second chance. And I think that Bill Clinton's moniker as the comeback kid is now over. It's now Donald Trump, Mr. Comeback.
Well, Mary Jo, look, thank you so much. Great to have you on the show this evening. Great to have your input and your expertise. It's Mary Jo Jacoby there, who is the former special assistant to President Reagan and also very much a friend of the channel. So you take care. Until next time, Mary. Well, coming up at 10 p.m, the evil murderer Axel Rudy Cabana pleaded guilty today to, amongst other things, murdering 3 little girls in Southport. But will we ever actually find out the truth? What's going on? The government's announced an inquiry. How deep will that inquiry go? And of course, we will be taking you live to Trump arriving there for his victory parade. Don't you dare move.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We keep mostly cloudy weather during the next 24 hours, so some patchy rain, but where clear spells do occur overnight, there'll be dense fog patches by morning. A cold front has moved south, but it's now slowing down, in fact stalling across central parts of the UK. That leaves behind an area of low cloud through northern England, North Midlands and North Wales. Outbreaks of drizzly rain here. Either side of that, some clear spells overnight, but where we do get prolonged clear spells, those dense fog patches will form. And it will be chilly, temperatures close to freezing, so frost and a few patches of ice here and there, particularly for Scotland and Northern Ireland, where we've got some showers moving through as well as those clear spells on and off. But it's across southern parts of the UK where we're likely to see some dense mist and fog patches first thing. Otherwise, a lot of low cloud and some cloud breaks, so some sunny spells coming through, although for North Wales and Northern England we keep the low cloud, we keep the drizzly rain into the morning and afternoon. Scotland and Northern Ireland, aside from a few pockets of mist, fog and frost, we'll see bright spells and showers across many areas during Tuesday morning and into the afternoon. The showers most prevalent across western and northern Scotland. Little changes then for the rest of the day. Outbreaks of rain through central areas, a lot of cloud in the south, brighter skies further north and temperatures closer to average for many of us compared with recent days, 5 to 8 Celsius. On Wednesday, the front across central parts finally clears southeastwards, so outbreaks of rain for a time in the southeast, brighter skies to the north and west, albeit with 1 or 2 showers. And then from Thursday onwards, the weather is about to turn much more unsettled. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine how £50,000 in cash from us could make your new year go with a bang.
Hi, my name's Victoria. I won the Spring Great British giveaway. So the day we got the money in our bank account, everything just felt a lot lighter. I would say if you're thinking about entering, just enter.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States.
the office of President of the United States.
President Trump is sworn in, and listen to his positivity.
America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth, inspiring the awe and admiration of the entire world.
And then let's compare that to what we've got over here.
Frankly, things will get worse before they get better.
Listen to Trump's big plans.
We will drill, baby, drill.
And then listen to the bloke we've got in charge of energy over here.
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Whose side are you on? But in other really big news right here in Britain, the terrorist Southport murderer Axel Rudikubana pleads guilty.
Time for change, Starmer. Come on, needed. How many more children? Is it mine next? Got your photos, off you go. Make a real change, Prime Minister.
What did Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper know about Axel Rudikubana when they laid those flowers? Also tonight.
One or two questions. Was this guy being monitored by the security services? Some reports say he was, others less sure.
Well, Nigel was right, wasn't he? Because Rudikubana was known to authorities, despite the fact we were told he wasn't. And in other news, just when you thought that Hamas couldn't get any worse. On my panel tonight is Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, the former chairman of the Tory party Sir Jake Berry, and the ex-Labour minister Bill Rammell. Oh, and what's going on with Corbyn and McDonnell here?
Anything to say at all, Mr. Corbyn? Anything to say at all on your interview with the police? Goodbye.
Get ready, Britain, here we go. Will the truth about Axel Rudikubana ever come out? Next.
Good evening, I'm Sophia Wensler with your headlines from the GB Newsroom. The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has announced a public inquiry into the Southport stabbings that can get to the truth about what happened and what needs to change. It's after the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, admitted the state failed the Southport attack victims, and there are grave questions to answer after the government's counter-terror scheme cleared Axel Rudikubana 3 times. It comes as the 18-year-old accused of killing 3 young girls in the stabbing spree has today pleaded guilty to the attack on the first day of his trial. He'll be sentenced on Thursday after pleading guilty to additional charges of possessing a knife, producing a biological toxin ricin, and owning a terrorist training manual. Donald Trump has said, "I was saved by God to make America great again," after being sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. Following the oath of the office, Trump addressed the nation, saying the golden age of America begins now. Trump made promises on illegal entry, race and gender.
All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders.
Meanwhile, Joe Biden used his final minutes of presidency to pardon members of his family. He already pardoned his son, Hunter, last month ahead of his sentencing on federal felony gun and tax convictions. He also issued preemptive pardons for public servants previously threatened by Trump and other Republican officials. In other news, the fragile ceasefire in Gaza is ending its second day, with 3 hostages reunited with their families, including British-Israeli Emily Damari. Her mother, Mandy, says her daughter is the happiest girl in the world after 15 months in captivity came to an end, and described their reunion as the hug she's dreamed of. She says Emily is recovering better than expected, but needs time to heal. Now, weight loss jabs such as Ozempic, Wegovy and Mounjaro double the risk of a deadly condition, according to a major study. Researchers at Washington University have found that those using the jabs have 2 times the risk of pancreatitis, a potentially life-threatening swelling of the pancreas gland. They found that while the benefits are significant, such as a lower risk of stroke and heart disease, the side effects can be quite severe and need to be recognised. And a new case of Mpox has been detected in England, according to the UK Health Security Agency. The case was detected in East Sussex after the individual recently returned from Uganda, where there is currently community transmission of the clade 1B Mpox strain, also known as monkeypox. They are now under specialist care in hospital. The UK Health Security Agency insists, though, that the risk to the UK remains low. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome along. Today, Axel Rudikabana, the 18-year-old son of Rwandan immigrants, pleaded guilty to murdering 3 little girls, attempting to murder 8 other children and 2 more adults. He also pleaded guilty to the production of the chemical weapon ricin and the possession of a terrorist training manual. I'll just start with this. How was the murder of those little girls and the attempted murder of everyone else not a terrorist offence? How can it be that the Crown Prosecution Service and police know he's got a manual literally called Military Studies in the Jihad Against Tyrants, the Al-Qaeda Training Manual, as well as ricin in his bedroom, and not put 2 and 2 together and say that he's committed a terrorist attack? Why was it months before the police came out and said this?
2 further offences relate to evidence obtained by Merseyside police during searches of Axel Rudikabana's home address, as part of a lengthy and complex investigation which has been ongoing since the 29th of July. The additional charges are the production of a biological toxin, namely ricin, contrary to Section 1 of the Biological Weapons Act 1974, and possession of information, namely a PDF file entitled Military Studies in the Jihad Against the Tyrants, the matter for which Axel Rudikabana has been charged under the Terrorism Act does not require motive to be established.
So they say they can't prosecute him for terrorism. Well, I must say, I think that seems a bit weird, especially when you consider this, because Callum Parslow attacked an Eritrean at a migrant hotel. He had Hitler's signature on his arm, and he tried to post a terrorist manifesto on social media. That was classed immediately as a terror offence. Does it not seem like the authorities have done their best to make sure Axel Rudikabana's case could not be seen as a jihadi terror attack? This brings us on to the next idea of a cover-up, doesn't it? Just an idea. We were initially told that Rudikabana was not known to authorities, but that is not true. He was referred to the Counter-Extremism Prevent programme 3 times, and police had visited his home address on numerous occasions. He had a history of violence. He was expelled from school. He attacked another pupil with a hockey stick. The police must have known this when they were telling everyone to calm down, that he's just a quiet Welsh choir boy. And crucially, at what point did Sir Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper know, A, about his troubled past, and B, that he'd been found with a jihadi terror manual and writing? Did they know when they went and did this?
Time to change, Starmer. Come on, needed. How many more children? Is it mine next? Got your photos, off you go. Make a real change, Prime Minister.
Get something.
Make a real change!
Get
children! Go away!
I just found out my friend's 9-year-old daughter was killed.
You don't want this!
Did they not know that they weren't just dealing with a nutter with a knife, that this had all the hallmarks of an Islamist terror attack? Now, the day after the attack, Starmer said that he'd been briefed by police.
To get a briefing from the Chief Constable and the emergency services about the ongoing investigation.
So, it seems he was briefed by police. Well, what did the police tell him? And then let's just add to this perception of a cover-up, it's just a perception, that we were all shown this picture of Axel Rudikubana, weren't we? There he is. And then today, after he's pleaded guilty, we finally get the mugshot. Now, a bit of a difference there, isn't there? A bit of a contrast. Why was the media and the public denied that picture until now? Does that not indicate that there's an attempt to portray him as a young, angelic-looking schoolboy instead of the evil, demonic monster that he so clearly is? Interesting, too, is it not, the fact that there's been quite a lot of debate about the timing of the trial. When it started on the same day as President Trump's inauguration, the biggest news day of the year, and the fact that there was no indication that Rudikubana would suddenly change his plea at the last minute. For some, particularly as the victims' families weren't even in court today, by all accounts, it all seems like an extraordinary coincidence, that, doesn't it? Equally, it seems unlikely that anyone would have predicted his last-minute change of plea, so there is that. But now we're being told that that is apparently a good thing by the prosecutor.
The prosecution was determined to prove his guilt, and I am deeply grateful that today's plea has spared the families at the heart of the case the pain of having to relive their ordeal through a trial.
So now, Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, has come out and said this: we need more independent answers on both Prevent and all other agencies that came into contact with this extremely violent teenager, as well as answers on how he came to be so dangerous, including through a public inquiry that can get to the truth about what happened and what needs to change. But I hope they can look themselves in the mirror, frankly. I hope they can look themselves in the mirror. Because when both her and Starmer appeared to be suggesting that everyone who had concerns about this was some kind of far-right racist, for even daring to think that this may have been an Islamist attack. Did they know a lot more than they were letting on at that moment in time? Now, in my view, what really led ultimately to the summer disorder that we saw was the withholding of information about Axel Rudikubana. I'm joined now by the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice. Now, Richard, there are strong views on both sides of this, and...
Seriously?
We will... Well,
I think there's only one strong view, and that is that we are facing the mother of all cover-ups. I mean, you've just read out there a serious list of extraordinary questions and coincidences, and people want answers. And I gather the Prime Minister is going to give a press conference tomorrow morning. There are suggestions that the Home Secretary is going to give a statement to the House. Let's wait and see. If not, for sure there'll be an urgent question. But I think they need to give a lot of answers very quickly.
The inquiry is going to give those answers.
So hang on. So we can have an inquiry now to kick the can down the road, but they're not prepared to give a national public inquiry into the child rape gangs because it doesn't suit the Labour Party. Once again, it feels like, you know, one rule for them and forget the rest of the British public. You have identified the serious questions that need to be answered. It is inconceivable that they did not know within a matter of hours that this guy was a wrong-un, a proper wrong-un. They will have known that he had multiple contacts with a various of agencies, and they would have inspected his room within hours of the attack.
So as it stands, and again, maybe this is something that will come out in an inquiry, and hey, we all hope it does. As it stands, you and I sitting here have no actual hard evidence that Yvette Cooper and Keir Starmer did definitely. They might say that they did.
Well, we will ask them.
It would contempt the case.
We will ask them tomorrow. But as the question that I asked on October the 30th to the Prime Minister is, given that his own independent review of legislation, Jonathan Hall KC, recommended repeatedly that in incidents like this, it is better to put out more information in order to prevent a misinformation gap, and they didn't. And the Chief Constable has got serious questions to answer about why twice, the day after and then on October the 29th, she said this was a non-terrorist incident. If holding an Al-Qaeda training manual is not an indication of a political or ideological cause, frankly, I don't know what is.
Now, Nigel Farage, your party leader, took a lot of flack when he came out, and I think we've got a clip, actually, that we can play. He raised some questions, didn't he, in the immediate aftermath of this attack. Let's play the clip.
I posted a video in which I asked the question, was this man known to the authorities? Why are you not telling us the truth? And for that, I was vilified. From senior newspaper publications, broadcasters, politicians, just for asking for the truth. I was apparently somebody who was encouraging rioting. The opposite was the case.
So that's what he said there. He said he was asking the question whether or not this particular individual, this monster, was known to authorities. And it's turned out he was known.
He was. And so, frankly, I think that the government and many MPs on the Labour benches owe Nigel a serious apology, because Nigel was bang on the money and they were trying to mislead, distract, or frankly, just say, nothing to see here, folks. This guy was known to the authorities and there was gross negligence at multiple levels, and there need to be multiple resignations. We cannot tolerate this level of incompetence and
when you
feebleness.
say who needs some resignations?
Various people at the top of these agencies. So there are serious questions on lots of people who knew and were involved, and you know, the Chief Constable of Merseyside Police has got a lot of answers to
Do you not think, though, at all that... I'm going to put this to my panel in a second, and Bill Ramell's on the panel, former Labour Minister, so I'll go to him. But do you not think that Starmer and Cooper, whatever may have happened at the time, deserve credit now for having an inquiry, calling an inquiry now?
Better late than never. No, sorry, I'm not going to give them credit. I'm going to call them out for not telling us, not informing us, as recommended by their own independent review of terrorism legislation.
All right, well, Richard, thank you very much. You take care. I'll be seeing you soon, no doubt. Right, now, I'm just going to whiz myself over to my esteemed panel this evening. We have the Daily Express columnist, Carol Malone. We've also got ex-Labour Minister Bill Ramell. And, of course, we've got the former chairman of the Tory party, Sir Jake Berry. Bill, I will come to you first on this, because we've heard a lot there from Deputy Leader of Reform. You know, I've also posed some questions that have not necessarily... shown Yvette Cooper and Keir Starmer, I would argue, in the best light. So where are you on this, Bill? Do you not think that if something caused those disorder that we saw in the summer, it was an information vacuum, and that actually some of the people behind that vacuum might be our Home Secretary and our Prime Minister?
Well, let me come to the heart of your allegations about a conspiracy and a cover-up. I mean, you actually said the start of the trial was deliberately engineered for the Donald Trump inauguration. Patrick, let me tell you, the state is not that capable to organise that level of conspiracy. There's no evidence that the Prime Minister or Yvette Cooper covered things up. What there is... and Jake will know this as a lawyer, there is a concern about prejudicing a trial that is taking place that risks unravelling that trial and somebody like that scumbag being able to get off because of that happening. And I think that is a concern. But I think the government has been right to call for a public inquiry, because there are things about this that I simply don't understand. So on the one hand, yes, you know, he had a terrorist training manual. He'd used toxic writing, and yet the police are still saying that there was no intent to commit a terrorist act. That baffles me, and we need to get to the bottom of that. It's also a real concern that multiple agencies appear to have failed. You know, 3 times he was referred to the Prevent programme. There was a very quick inquiry during the summer that determined the Prevent procedures were implemented in full. Well, how is that possible when there's the track record of evidence of what he's trying to do?
To be honest, part of this inquiry that hopefully is relatively rapid in whatever its findings are, although I'm yet to be convinced, a part of that might shine quite a negative light on your party, Joe, because if
I think it might do, and we shouldn't run away from that, because this sort of appalling murder of little kids in Southport, we've got to do whatever it takes. If that is embarrassing for the Conservative Party, so be it. Let's try and stop this happening. Just on this date of the trial point, though, and I did a tweet about this today, and I had a little bit of criticism about it. It's right that the courts set the dates of trial, but it's also right that government has real influence over the behaviour of the courts. If you want any evidence of that, look at the fact that Keir Starmer came out on the 7th of August and said, I am going to ensure that people are charged and prosecuted and sent to prison straight away for taking part in these riots. If he had influence over the courts then, the dates and the speed at which they process things, if it was true then, it may well be true now. It's very convenient that it happened to be on the biggest global news day, probably in my lifetime, actually, Donald Trump's being signed in and saying that people who believe in coincidence in politics should also believe in the fairies, as far as I'm concerned.
I do wonder, Bill, seriously, sorry, Carol, I'll come to you in a second. It's an important point to get a bit of balance on this, because, you know, is it really fair, realistic, to hide behind... your excuse for the idea that this couldn't be possibly true is that the government is too incompetent to have engineered this. I mean, it's not a great excuse, is it?
Well, I'm talking under successive governments. Right. The state is not capable of that kind of conspiracy and that not coming out in public.
All right. Okay.
Well, we'll see, won't we?
Well, Carol, look, your views on this. Let's deal with one of the important matters at hand here, which is how on earth can somebody who is found with literally the jihadi training manual and writing, how can we not prove causation between that and what he goes and does?
Well, let me just preempt that by saying, tell me how it takes 3 months for a competent police force to arrest someone for these hideous murders. It takes them 3 months before they charge him with this additional terrorist offence, when they must have known. They must have gone into that boy's bedroom, into his house, and they would have seen that on July the 29th, they would have seen this from his equipment. He watched a terrorist video of a man shouting Allahu Akbar while he stabbed a bishop to death. And very soon after that, this Ruda Kanar Banu went out and actually slaughtered these children, doing exactly the same stabbing thing. They must have known by looking at his equipment that he looked at beheading videos on a regular basis. They must have known all of that. Why did it take them 3 months to come out and talk about that? Why did it take them 3 months to talk about the Al-Qaeda manual? Why did it take them 3 months for us to know that he had this Al-Qaeda manual and that he'd be... You know, we now know he was expelled from school at 13 for having a knife. And, you know, Richard was just talking about this, but yet again we have a situation where the full details of a crime aren't released because a government decides it doesn't want to inflame racial tensions. And here, this has echoes of Rotherham and Rochdale in exactly this way. And I just think, you know, we now have a state that is run by a man who was trying to control the information we get. And can I just say one more thing about, because they've had a good go, because Farage has come out and actually said today that the riots in Stockport were caused Southport because of the lack of information that was being given out, and that it caused a boiling point among the people, and that's when they went rioting. And it is ironic beyond belief that some of the people that were arrested in Stockport for rioting, they were threatened with being charged with terrorist offences, which is outrageous.
If we release the amount of information that you are asking for, you massively risk...
No, you don't.
No,
you don't.
That is not true.
You do not. If you have information to charge someone with a terrorist offence, and they must have had this within hours of arresting that bloke. He should have been charged with that terrorist offence right then. It doesn't take you 3 months to gather that
I don't know any police prosecution that works that quickly.
Oh, seriously?
Well, apparently...
Hang on, I want to say, the police go to a killer's bedroom, they find all these videos, they find out his activities, and it takes them 3 months to decide that's incriminating. Seriously.
When within days they could prosecute people and send them to prison for putting on the internet... Putting on the internet... Let me finish.
They have to plead guilty, or they
Carol, come on.
their sentence.
Putting on the internet that this was a terrorist attack. People were actually sent to prison for putting, amongst other things, on the internet. Let me finish. No, let me finish. It's an important point. No, I'm not. I'm not.
You know,
I'm not.
If you plead
These are the
guilty,
facts.
it quickly goes
These
to
are the
court.
facts.
That
may or may not be true. But the facts are that people have been sent to prison in this country for inciting racial hate, for putting on the internet that this was a terrorist attack. If it subsequently comes out that Keir Starmer, Yvette Cooper, senior prosecutors knew... I asked the question. If they knew at the time, if this comes out in the public inquiry, Starmer, Cooper, the Chief Constable will all go.
Sorry, because I want to just put this to Bill, right? Because do you think it is, or was, a little bit disingenuous of Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper if it turns out that in this inquiry that both of them knew very early on, they'd been referred to prevent 3 times, that he had writing in his bedroom and the jihadi terror manual and been looking at whatever beheading videos that Carol was talking. If they knew about that when they were saying that everyone who was going out on the streets was, basically a far-right racist, do you think that's a bit disingenuous?
If that is proven at the end of the day, then they will have questions to answer. But I don't think there is evidence that that was the case.
Why not?
Because...
Why wouldn't they know that?
Carol, let me answer the question, because there is rightly a separation of powers between the police and the judiciary and the government of the day. The government does not intervene in operational policing matters.
So why did the police say... After this boy was charged, that there was no terrorist offences, what? Because they did.
Don't know.
Because they did say that.
But you know what?
Isn't it convenient? Let me just say, isn't it convenient that the slow release of information is convenient for a state that is terrified of unrest and terrified of its own failings being exposed?
So what I'd say is this: as somebody who's actually, and you may have done it as well, attended lots of Cobra meetings in my time of government for situations like this, they start with a full briefing by the concerned. So in this case, I would guess, I wasn't there, but I've been to lots of Cobra meetings. They start with a full briefing with the police officer. This is what we know about this individual. This is what our initial investigations...
Not for individual cases.
No, they do. They do. I've been there. I've seen it firsthand. They do. I frankly, calling a spade... No, for a moment of national crisis, where you have these Cobra meetings, you get briefings from the police. So calling a spade a shovel, if Keir Starmer didn't know about this and Yvette Cooper didn't know about this, I will eat my hat, boiled or fried.
That's why you need inquiry.
Why does Farage say he was prevented from asking questions in Parliament about this? Why?
Because the Speaker of the House of Commons rightly always says you can't ask questions like that because you'll prejudice a police investigation.
Look, thank you for that. It's live. So that, I believe, I hope I'm right in saying this, is the kind of discussion, frankly, that's going to be happening on sofas up and down the country tonight. I think in pubs, round dinner tables, and probably has been happening for a few months. But anyway, we are now allowed to talk about it. So thank you. Robust on either side. I'll stress again, hey, look, Yvette Cooper, Keir Starmer, there's no indication officially done anything wrong. We've got an inquiry. They have called for this inquiry, so fair play to them for that respect. But, we have to wait and see. There are questions to answer, and I think, it's right that we have the discussion. Moving on. I believe that we can take you back to Washington now, because President Trump and Melania, there he is. They have just arrived at the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. for, I was going to say, the final leg of this victory parade, but it does look to me as though... Oh, I thought we was going to start talking then. Maybe not. Come on. We'll get a bit of a Trump dance first, but I'd be amazed if he didn't decide to address the crowd here. So we will hopefully take that to you as and when he does that. But in the meantime, I can take you to the CEO of the Mississippi Center for Public Policy. It's Douglas Carswell. Douglas, thank you very much. We'll sit on these pictures, though. Douglas, thank you for joining us this evening. Great to have you on the show. What we're seeing here
so much.
Is a moment of history, isn't it? Trump already signing executive orders. He's got rid of some of the gender nonsense. Woke's out the window. He's going to drill, baby, drill. What do you make of what we've seen and heard so far?
Isn't it the most extraordinary comeback? This time 4 years ago, he was banned from social media. He was written off as yesterday's man. Lefty journalists were lining up to tell us how dreadful he was. And there he is. He's not only back, he's spent 4 years figuring out how to fix America, how to overturn the woke nonsense, the gender ideology, the critical race theory nonsense. It's going to be exhilarating to watch. It really is.
And I thought you tweeted something quite interesting earlier on, actually, which is that you said that maybe, because you view that Trump's America is where it's at right now, that maybe he should incentivise go-getter intelligent Brits to go over there with some kind of large-scale visa system, and you think that would sink Starmer. They're not the worst, Douglas, of a man who really cares about Britain, are they?
It was a slightly facetious, tongue-in-cheek comment, but it was trying to make a serious point. The old assumption was that Britain and America grew roughly at the same pace, Britain a little bit more slowly than America, but they were comparable. What we're seeing now is America rocket speed launch ahead into a league of its own. I mean, the southern US, and I'm talking to you from the deep south, the southern US is at the center of this most remarkable economic and technological takeoff. And I think people in Britain need to start asking serious questions. This is not a party political point. We all know that Keir Starmer and his growth agenda are totally monumentally useless. But the issue Brits should ask is, why is it that every prime minister they've had since November 1990 has weighed the country down with higher taxes, higher regulation, stifling the country, suffocating it, and getting it wrong on the big issues of the day, from open border immigration to multiculturalism? America seems to have taken a fundamentally different direction here with the election of Trump. America, we heard Musk earlier talking about a fork in the road for the future of civilization. Britain could be part of this too. But in order for that to happen, Brits need to recognize they have been systematically let down for the past generation by a bunch of third-rate mediocrities from the Uniparty. And I think Trump is going to make that a moment of reckoning for Britain.
Well, look, I mean, just as I've watched this, and as I'm sure many of our viewers and listeners have throughout the course of the day as well, you know, there's been no blue hair in sight. We haven't seen a performance by any drag queen storytellers. We haven't seen any kind of weird woke rubbish. It's all been pretty straight down the line, proper stuff. It's actually been quite nice to watch, I think, personally. Yeah. It's been quite nice to watch. What I will say to you, though, Douglas, is, hey, look, as maybe Keir Starmer is finding out here, it's easier in opposition, isn't it? And Trump is there. He's been talking a good game. It's all very well and good that he's lined the border guards up for a tiny bit of the border with Mexico at the moment. He's talking big about what he's going to do in Ukraine. He's talking big about what he's going to do for the US economy. I think I'm paraphrasing here, but you know, this is going to be a golden age for the US. It's going to be the most successful presidency in US history. Well, that's a big, big, big call, isn't it? A lot could go wrong, Douglas.
Of course. I mean, if you have my view on politics, all political leaders end up disappointing. Don't ever look to a big man or big woman in politics to be your savior. It doesn't work that way. They always disappoint. But there are two things that I think Trump really needs to get right. Number one is controlling American government spending. America is running up a massive amount of debt every month. If he can bring that under control, that will be critically important for the future of US as a superpower and for future US prosperity. The other thing that I think is really important is whether or not he continues to what you might call revive federalism, this idea that, you know, America is really 50 different states. It's not a uniform country. It is not like the European Union, a top-down system, but it is 50 different states doing things differently. If he can achieve that, bringing government spending under control and dispersing power out to the states, then long after he's left office in 4 years, it'll be a success story.
Douglas, there's a lot of people sitting here in Britain this evening hoping that Trump can show that deporting thousands, in his case, because of the sheer volume of it, probably millions of illegal migrants, can be done, despite whatever human rights laws there may be. That, yes, you can have low tax and you can put money in people's pockets, that you can drill and you don't have to pursue net zero, that you can show power and force on the world stage, you can get blokes out of women's bathrooms, all of that stuff, hoping that maybe if Trump unequivocally paves the way in that regard, that we then really should do the same. And that, I think, would be the ambition. But we currently have, in this country right now, a government full of people who have called Trump things like a neo-Nazi sympathising, woman-hating psychopath. How on earth can our government be compatible with what many people hope to see from President Trump abroad?
Well, there ought to be a great opportunity for Britain and America to work closely together, to the point where actually it ought to be perfectly possible for Britain to get a free trade agreement with America. It's a great opportunity. Trump has this weirdly sentimental attachment to Britain. He's very pro-British. He's offered a deal already under the disastrous premiership of Theresa May. Trump actually offered a free trade agreement, which May, in her incompetence, failed to take advantage of. The UK could also deal with and do with a free trade agreement, for the very simple reason that there's not a lot of growth in the UK. If there was a free trade agreement with the US, and that would stimulate growth in the UK and boost the UK economy. The problem is the incompetence of the current Starmer administration. I think the number one risk of fracturing the special relationship is Starmer and his coterie don't understand how seriously Trump and Musk and the rest of them take freedom of speech. It won't be possible to have a special relationship with the United States if you continue to incarcerate people for saying things on social media, if you continue to threaten people for making factual observations about the criminal justice system in the UK. The second reason why I think the special relationship could be potentially at risk, or a free trade agreement could be at risk, I think if it's going to happen, it needs to be very, very simple. There's a tendency amongst British civil servants to overcomplicate trade agreements. So I think there could be a free trade agreement between Britain and America. But I really do worry that with Starmer at the helm, actually things could go horribly wrong.
OK. Well, Douglas, thank you very much for your time this evening, and I do hope to talk to you again in the coming days, weeks and months. It's Douglas Carswell there. He's the CEO of Mississippi Centre for Public Policy. Believe it or not, he was a UKIP MP for a bit as well, wasn't he, Douglas? And a Tory.
For a long time.
And a Tory MP, yeah. So there we go. So, Douglas, thank you very much for that assessment. Carol, what do you make of that assessment? And also, what do you feel? Look, as a Brit, you're sitting here now. He's not our president. We've got a lot of people over there. Suella Braverman's over there. Nigel Farage is over there. Priti Patel's over there. All of that stuff. What do you make? Do you feel more optimistic today as a result of this?
I feel optimistic for America. I don't feel very optimistic for us. I mean, I said earlier that I thought that we could get a trade deal, and Douglas is actually confirming that. And I think it's true, but I think with Starmer at the helm and all the useful idiots he has in his cabinet, I don't think that's actually going to be possible. You can't have people hurling vile insults at the leader of the free world and expecting him to give you deals. However, I don't think he holds any resentment against this country generally. I think he loves Britain. He loves the royal family. He's a big royalist. I think he will want to do good things for us, and I think we can only cock it up, and I think that's the problem.
When you look, Bill, at the people that Trump's got around him, Elon Musk is one of them, obviously an interesting character, to say the least. But you also have a look at the idea that he had, he's got quite a lot of business acumen surrounding him in a way that we don't really have here, do we?
Well, look, in his first term as president, he had that own personal business experience and lots of business experience around him, and it wasn't a very good outcome. Look, we need to get close to the Trump administration. We need to form a relationship with them. We will do that. But I also think, particularly around the issue of tariffs, but I also think the Trump administration, is going to run up against reality. Let's take one of his biggest pledges in his first term, building of the wall across the Mexican border. Do you know how many miles that increased by during his presidency? 15 miles.
Right.
He's very good on big, grandiose rhetoric and promises. Delivery is another matter. And I think that's what he's going to have to confront. But we are going to have to build a relationship with him.
You are, and what could happen, and by the way, I'm being reliably informed by my Scottish producer here that these bagpipes are a nod to Trump's Scottish heritage. Hey, I know you might be able...
Except they're not. They've got
might be able to see
they've got the Irish shamrock on, but...
I know,
yeah.
I'm reliably informed that this is all about his Scottish heritage. No, I'm only joking. But, look, conceivably, Trump, in the next few days, could veto Chagos. That could be dead in the water. He could also veto Mandelson.
Yes.
Now, those are two things that Keir Starmer has a direct-handed. Sorry, let me finish because sorry, but Starmer's had a direct. Those are Starmer's decisions, and if Trump goes, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, that is a massive two fingers to our Prime Minister.
If he vetoes Mandelson, then we've got a diplomatic war. It is utterly.
We're not going to win it, are we? Oh no, we're at war.
It is utterly unprecedented for any country to refuse an ambassadorship other than on grounds of security or corruption.
Well,
and I don't actually think he will do.
Maybe he could send Trump to prison for hurty words when he comes over next time.
There's a lot of right-wing noise around Trump. I don't actually think he'll do.
Isn't Trump demonstrating what leadership is about? Because you may be right that he didn't build much of a wall. You may also be right that he didn't have the right people around him in the first presidency. But what people want in a leader is someone who believes in their country and is optimistic about its future. That's what I want for my own family. I want to be optimistic about my own family's future. The best leaders have the vision which Trump set out brilliantly today, and then they surround themselves with the right people who can implement it. And that's what's different about Trump this time. He's had this thing called Project 2025. He spent years thinking about how he will build his government and who can best implement it. So he is coming in with a honed team with a plan to deliver. Compare that to the UK. We have a Prime Minister who is downbeat about the prospects of the UK. You've played clips about him tonight saying things are much worse than we thought, surrounded by a cabinet of numpties. Now, no wonder we should be concerned about the prospects of the United Kingdom.
They're totally inexperienced.
You talk about Trump surrounding himself by big figures. Elon Musk, I make a prediction, he's going to be out of the administration in 6 months.
It's not just Elon Musk.
He's already falling apart with him.
It's not just Elon Musk. He has other big people around him, business people around him, that he's gathered for a very long time.
This is, by the way, I believe I'm right in saying, the cheerleading team from the high school of J.D. Vance, who's now the Vice President. That's what I think I heard there. J.D. Vance certainly looked rather excited about it. It's the cheerleading team and the school band from I believe his home school. Quite a nice nod. When I look at this stuff though, and again it's been the whole day, and I think GBNews, Bev Turner's been fantastic. Michelle Dewberry, Martin Daubney were just exceptional for the 4 hours before I came on air, and Christopher Hope as well. Look, it's been a brilliant day of it here really at GBNews. But you look at the optimism and the positivity and that American can-do attitude, and when you come in on a wave of what we're seeing right now, compared to the Keir Starmer drop, it's impossible. When you usher in a president, whether it's Trump or anyone, when you usher in a president like this, they get a bounce, don't they? Because this is positive, this is cool. Well, I can't feel like maybe we should do a little bit more of this over here.
What, more cheerleaders?
Not entirely that, Jake.
But no one's going to cheerlead this government because, as Starmer said, as the clip you showed right at the start of this show, it's going to be bad and it's going to get even more badder. So why would any of us support him? And the thing is, what's clear, Starmer has no ideas. He backtracks on everything. He has no real ideas. Trump has proper vision and ideas. And he said he's going to make people's heads spin with the speed at which he implements these ideas. And I believe that.
Well, I've got 100...
What are we doing here? Nothing.
Well, and again on that, so he's come out, and people might, as indeed will shortly, because shortly what I've got on is a body language expert who's going to be reviewing some clips of Trump today and his team versus the likes of Kamala Harris, Hillary, Bill Clinton, Obama. So we're going to look at that. I always find that stuff quite interesting. There was a laugh, a big belly laugh from Hillary Clinton when he spoke about making the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. There was massive eye rolls and terrible faces when he spoke about taking back the Panama Canal. And I get that practically those things might be difficult.
What's he going to do, invade?
I get it, right? But it's a statement of intent, isn't it? It's I'm here, Daddy's home. This is we're taking back that canal.
And compare it to our own government, which wants to give away sovereign UK territory in the Chagos Island to Mauritius, which has nothing to do with Chagos Islands, to Mauritius, who are in bed with the Chinese.
Rubbish talked about this.
So they're not going to give it away?
Hold on. We faced legal cases which would have lost us the sovereign base. We cut a deal that secures the base for the future.
Well, we've given it away. We're paying them £9 billion to take it from us. What do you think President Trump would say? What do you think President Trump would say if someone said, we're going to take you to court? He'd say, bring it on. If you take on America, you will fail. That's the sort of leadership, ambition and passion I want from Britain's leaders.
James Cleverly, as Foreign Secretary under the last Conservative government, start the negotiations with the Chagosians for that transfer.
Have to have a word with James about that. I don't know. But what I do know, I wasn't part of it then. What I do know is that President Trump would not be bullied into giving US territory away, nor should Great Britain.
Oh, no, let's just zhuzh it up a little bit because my papers have been handed to me. There we go. We have the very first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. We have the very first look, excuse me, at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. We've got the Daily Telegraph here. We've got the picture of... we'll tell you what we'll lead with. We'll lead with the Metro. Trump's back. Now the world waits to see what happens next. Has got Trump there, big hug from his son. Melania's got a hand on his waist, which is good because you don't normally see her touching him, to be fair, so there you go. We've got the Mirror. They've also got the big picture story is he's back and waging war on everything, Trump 2.0. That kiss there of him and Melania, I actually do think that was wonderful because that hat was so big.
I know, but he got in the second time.
He got in yeah, well done. But on a much more serious note, of course, the bottom story on the front of the Mirror there is Southport knife murders failed by the state. Triple child killer flagged as a terrorist 3 times. And they have actually used that mugshot of him, which, again, ridiculously, why were we only showing that mugshot today? But anyway, let's go to the Eye next. Unleashed. 47th president begins his policy blitz demanding oil drilling boom, announcing the US will only recognise 2 genders, male and female. I do put it to you at home. If Keir Starmer or any leader announced that stuff here, would they not immediately become more popular? I suspect
half of it,
so.
just half of it.
Yeah. Daily Express, our golden age has just begun. Yeah, again, look, these are the headlines. You say what you like, but you come out and you say this stuff, and it gets on the front page. And the first day greeting your presidency is a picture of you with our golden age has just begun. Over here, we're always like, it's going to be so hard. We're going to have to struggle. Everyone's going to have to suffer.
But isn't the difference, though? Trump believes it. And the thing is, the world doesn't know what he's going to do. It's his unpredictability that makes him so attractive and so tough and strong.
But the Sun has gone for why did no one stop him with a big picture there of Axel Rudy Cabana, just looking the personification of evil, wasn't it? And there's 3 deceased victims there on the side, bless them, those poor little girls. The Daily Mail. We've got Southport killer plotted massacre at his old school. Now, this is an interesting story that, thanks to it being on the front page of the Daily Mail, we can now mention, which is that the allegation is that Axel Rudy Cabana also plotted Britain's first high school massacre a week before his knife rampage, and that he was potentially stopped
by his father
from getting into a car by his father. This is according to the Daily Mail, of course, and, you know, they obviously feel as though they can shore that up.
But those are the kind of questions that we need a public inquiry for. I mean, you know, I've also heard many of the agencies who intervened with him had to take the police with him to the father's house. You know, that should have been ringing alarm bells all over the place.
OK, sorry, just finally, one more paper, The Guardian. I was saved by God to make America great again. So those were just some of Trump's words. Let's just take you back to Washington, shall we? Why not, hey? We can see some of this ongoing victory parade for the now 47th president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, and we're back at it. So there we are. This never-ending parade. It reminds me a little bit of an Olympic opening ceremony, this.
So what I think is interesting about this, we're talking a lot rightly about President Trump today, but J.D. Vance is the rising star of American politics.
Far worse things about Donald Trump.
President Trump's vice president candidate, and he wrote a brilliant book called The Hillbilly Elegy, the Hillbilly Eulogy, as we might say in this country, talking about him being brought up in a very poor household as a working-class kid and all the battles he had to get to this extraordinary position of being Vice President of the United States. I think he's one to watch. Donald Trump can't stand again. We can't have another Trump presidency. It might be President Vance next.
Well, we'll see what the legacy is, isn't it? Because There are questions. I know it's too early to ultimately have a proper conversation about this, but I get your point. I mean, it's what comes next, isn't it? Is it J.D. Vance? Is it one of Trump's kids or something? We'll see, I suppose, won't we?
But there's also second-term itis. He's a second-term president, and you start losing your authority within about a year or 18 months. That's something he's going to have to confront as well.
Yeah. Or the flip side of that is you can do whatever you want.
I was going to say, give him a chance. He hasn't started yet.
When he loses control of the House and the Senate in the first midterms, you're then really...
You're just hoping, Bill. You're just hoping.
Careful what you wish for, but that's why he's come out of the traps like a greyhound, signed these 100 presidential orders today. He has an absolute determination. Well, I tell you what, Jonah, why don't we just shoot an albatross before the cruise ship leaves the harbour, just for a bit of good luck for him? Look, the man has got a plan. Let him try and implement it. Come on.
Of the Starmer government, doom, doom, doom. That won't work. That can't work.
Yeah, because I fundamentally disagree with a lot of his policies. I do. I'm a member of the Labour Party. I fundamentally disagree with an awful lot of the Donald Trump agenda, and I'm not going to...
Yeah, like creating growth, cutting taxes. We know you disagree with it.
Right. Well, guys, we don't need a body language expert to find out what's going on in this studio, let me tell you, but we're going to introduce one anyway. We've got the wonderful Darren Staunton. Darren, thank you very much. Now, we've been looking at some of these marching bands here, etc., but I believe I'm going to be playing a couple of clips, I think, for you to review, so we can get a fixture on the body language between Trump, Kamala Harris, Obama, people like that earlier on. So I'm hoping that I might be able to fire a clip here of Biden and Trump arriving at the inauguration. Let's play that clip. Oh, that's right. It'll come in a second. Don't worry. It'll be there, and it'll be Biden and Trump arriving at the inauguration, and we're going to be able to review how we think that went with Darren Staunton, our body language expert. So there we go.
Oh, there you go.
All right. OK, let's bring Darren in straight away. Darren, look, what do you make of this, Darren? How do you think that this is going? A tough day for Biden.
Good evening, everyone. I mean, obviously, having assessed Trump for a good decade now, I think this was a fascinating sort of display, which we'll go on to. But I think there's clearly no love lost between Biden and Trump. And I think, just looking at Trump's sort of facial expressions, there's something that I look at called a micro-expression. And it's kind of a fleeting flash of emotion. And we see a little bit of contempt, which is almost like a one-sided smile, as if to say, I told you so. And I think we saw that in a little bit of a facial expression as the two men walked towards camera. So that's quite interesting.
Yeah, that is quite interesting. There's another clip that, for me, really stood out, which was about Trump talking about the Gulf of Mexico returning, or just being now, the Gulf of America. And Hillary Clinton was behind him, sitting there. I think we can play a little clip of him saying that. I hope we can anyway.
A short time from now, we are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and we will restore the name.
All right, so Kamala Harris there, sitting with a face like thunder. I mean, Hillary Clinton just openly laughing at him. Well, what do you think of that, Darren? What do you make of what we're seeing there?
I assessed the sort of primaries back in 2016, and I think, even back then, Hillary Clinton thought she had it at the back, and I think, she still thinks he's going to fail, but, unfortunately, history has showed us that everything that he said would come to pass has come to pass. So I know a few of you guests were talking about whether some of these policies that he introduced or he mentioned he would bring in would happen. But if we go back a couple of years, where he said he would become president again and he would overcome all of the legal issues, everyone kind of laughed at him. So yeah, it didn't seem so ludicrous that he's just the sort of man to do it, isn't he?
Well, he is. I mean, there's also some serious questions about exactly why Joe Biden has decided to pardon other members of his family today. What is it they're supposed to have done? But anyway, maybe we'll never know now, will we? We'll never know. So there we go. Darren, look, thank you. Can I just say, I know it's a bit short and sweet, but I really do appreciate you taking the time for us this evening. It's always good to have a body language expert on, so I'll talk to you again very soon. We're going to have a lot to analyse, aren't we? I do have to bring you some news, and one of the reasons why I was just cutting Darren short there is because it's some important news to bring you before I go tonight. The Prime Minister will address the nation tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. about the Southport murders, so I'll just repeat that. The Prime Minister will address the nation tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. in relation to the Southport murders. So make sure that you watch GB News tomorrow morning for that statement and live analysis. So we'll be bringing that to you. Can I also just say a massive thank you, and this is in relation to our fundraiser, my fundraiser that we had earlier. We heard from Maggie Oliver a little bit earlier on. The start of last week, I decided to launch a fundraiser to the Maggie Oliver Foundation, which does work with victims and survivors of grooming gangs and help get them both to justice and also the support that they so often need. And well, look, when we started that GoFundMe page, it was gofundme.com/stop grooming gangs. We set a target of £100,000. Now, that shot up to £350,000 as of now, plus a £75,000 anonymous donation given tonight directly to the Maggie Oliver Foundation, which you will not be seeing on your screens there. That was given directly to Maggie Oliver Foundation. So thank you, every single one of you, for making your voices heard through your hard-earned money to Maggie Oliver Foundation. So thank you. I just wanted to finish the show by saying that. Thank you very much, everybody. Absolute pleasure as always. Top panel, and I hope to see you all again very, very soon. Headliners are up next. I'll see you tomorrow.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather